Next up, Anushka. Where are you? There you are. When Anushka was growing up, she moved every 2 to 3 years and has lived in 10 different countries in her life. That's pretty damn cool. She absolutely loves basketball. She plays in a league every week and is hoping to play lots more this summer. Maybe you can find some opponents in the crowd. And she has always dreamed of being a surfer. She recently tried it for the first time in Costa Rica and says that she can stand on a surfboard in very beginner waves, which she says is basically the same thing. Give it up for Anushka.
I do work in tech. Right, nice to meet you guys. My name is Anushka, and this is the story of how I fucked up and wasted $500,000. So let's take it back to Q1 2022, which was actually the first time in my life that I thought things were going really, really well. I had a really cool job at an AI company, and then because it was just right after COVID, things in my personal life were going great too. I had all these cool trips planned with my friends. I started getting back into old hobbies. I met a really great guy. Things were going amazing. And at that time, I was working at this company called Brainify, and I actually started there as a product marketing manager. And in like 4 months, because I was doing a great job, I was promoted. I got the option and the opportunity to be head of growth at the company. And it was really exciting. It was more money, better title, and a lot of responsibility, which is why obviously I took the job, but it also made me a little bit anxious because a lot of the things that I was doing, I was going to be doing them for the first time. And so my responsibility as the head of growth at Brainify, number one, if you work in a startup, I'm sure you can relate, was to generate leads and increase revenue. And so one of the ways that a B2B startup does this is through events. And so that's what I did. I had a lot of pressure to show results quickly. So I was like, okay, we're gonna try out events, see what happens. And in the B2B space, there's a lot of different formats of events, but the thing that worked best for us at the time was sponsorship packages with paid for meetings. So basically what that is like you're just paying for meetings with your prospects. It's not super complicated. And they were actually working really well in, I would say, the end of Q2. So for the first half of the year, everything was going amazing. I was meeting all of my lead targets. Everybody was happy. Our investors were happy. My boss, who is the CEO, was happy. The sales team was ecstatic because they didn't have to do any outbound and they got all these great meetings. Everything was going amazing. Everything was going so amazing that at the end of Q2, Q3, because things were going so well, I actually renewed a bunch of the contracts for 2023 with our event partners. So basically everything that we did in 2022, I decided to do the same thing again, because if it's working, why change it, right? So in 2022, I spent $500,000 on events, and then decided to do the same thing for 2023. And as I said, things were going great. And then Q4 happened. So it was the beginning of Q4. I was preparing for a board meeting, which I knew wasn't going to go great because we hadn't hit our revenue targets, But I honestly thought things were going to go great for me because I had met all my targets. And I was putting together, my story and, my presentation for the board meetings, looking through the data, thinking that I'm doing amazing. But what I realized was that, yes, I had met all my targets. I had generated, I think some 200 sales qualified leads for the business, but only one of them actually became a customer. And then I started thinking about the cost of acquisition and the conversion. You get it. I feel that you get it. Do you guys know how expensive events are? I spent $500,000 on one customer. How was I going to explain this to investors? And then I kind of realized also, not only had I already spent $500,000 on one customer, but I was going to do the same thing again in 2023. How was I going to explain that to investors? So in case you're wondering how that board meeting went, this is a literal visual representation of how it went. Honestly, I did the best I could. I tried my hardest. It wasn't great, but it also, it wasn't the best. And I think at that time, I was really trying. You guys, don't make me laugh. I was trying. I knew that I had made a mistake, and I was trying to fix it. I think a lot of people, their oh shit moment is, something bad happens. You lose a bunch of money. You get fired. What else bad things can happen? You lose a bunch of money, somebody yells at you, you get fired, right? All of those things happened to me. But honestly, it didn't feel like a single moment. It really felt like my oh shit moment was like an oh shit 6 months. And in that time, it was so frustrating because I was really, really, really trying to fix things. I was trying to cancel contracts. I was, tried some Hail Marys with the events, but nothing was working. And it was so frustrating because I could feel the same positivity and the same people that were supporting the decisions I make, I could feel them doubting me. I could definitely hear my boss saying that I was doing a shit job. And it just made me really, really angry and sad because I was doing the most, but A, nothing was coming out of it, and B, I wasn't even having a good time. I didn't really even want to be doing that. I didn't want to be an event manager and, working on events. I thought I was going to be doing something different. But it, consumed my life to try and, fix this problem that I had created. And it was probably, I'm joking about it now, but it was, actually the worst 6 months that I've ever had at work in my career. I think I was crying about work at least once a week. There was, I think, a week where my boyfriend and I saw each other every day, and every single day that we saw each other, I cried about work. And it was it was pretty shit. Because it felt it didn't just feel like a fuck up, it felt like I was trying all the time and failing consistently. So it started to feel like I was the fuck up. So fast forward to Q2 2023, I actually got let go, which is, it had to end this way. But obviously I learned some things along the way, and I'm going to share those with you now. So number one is I will never fuck around with my budget like that again. I think one of the things I learned that I will take forward into any other role, job, whatever that I have, is that I will treat my budget like it is my own money. I will really think about what I am spending money on and maybe do a little bit more due diligence when I'm spending money, especially if I'm working at a startup. Number two is trust your gut, even if it's weak. I think one of the things I realized is that, as I mentioned, in this role, there were a lot of things that I had to do for the first time. But there was also, despite what it may seem like, there was a lot of things that I knew how to do and that I was doing well. And for those things, I was confident, I trusted myself, I trusted my gut. But for the things that I was doing for the first time, I didn't. For those things, I would just, I would feel anxious that something was wrong, and then I would be like, oh, that's just me being an anxious person, which I am, or that's just imposter syndrome. But now, what I'll do moving forward is, okay, I'll feel that anxiety, but instead of just like casting it aside, what I'll probably do is like look into it a little bit. Because sometimes anxiety is just anxiety and you shouldn't trust it, but sometimes it's trying to tell you something. And so at work, what I'll probably do is when I feel a bit anxious, I'll look into it. I'll look at the data. I'll try and figure out why am I feeling anxious about this, what feels wrong, before I just put it away. Number three, just gotta fuck around and find out. Typically when I've been in situations where I'm doing things for the first time, I'm very careful, I'm very measured, I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. But as I learned, that doesn't really stop you from making mistakes. And it's really important to make those mistakes quickly and just find out what happens. And obviously learn from them as well. And I think what that looks like is trying to just anticipate what's going to go wrong and then checking in and staying alert to see if you can detect early signs of failure. What I was doing was kind of riding a wave of things going well. And so when it was really time to, I should have probably looked at the numbers way, way earlier than I did. And then the last one is interesting because, so when I got that promotion that set everything in motion, my first reaction was not being super excited. It was actually, I don't really know if I want this. And what that made me realize is that, the way that I grew up and, in our society as well, it's just kind of a failure if you're not climbing the ladder. But sometimes you really have to take a step back and think about how you can set yourself up for success. Really think about what your path is and what's going to make you happy. And do I regret my choices and do I regret taking this role and taking this job? Absolutely not. I would do it again. I learned a lot from it. But at the same time, I really do believe that maybe I didn't really set up myself for success, and I might have been happier just doing the type of work that I was doing and enjoying at the time. And so I'll kind of leave you guys with that because that's what I'm doing right now. And this has been really cathartic for me to share this story with you guys, and I appreciate you very much for all being here.
Thank you so much, Anushka. I feel like there was a lot of relating happening in that story. I think we have time for a couple of questions. Anybody?